I want to add in some updates within this lesson. So we notice whenever we get really big and we've got the spacing there, our navigation bar doesn't fall exactly in line with the rest of our content. And that's because we're using the floats and we didn't clear out the floats. So it's always a good idea to add in a class to clear out those floats so that all of the content gets presented and falls in line properly. Also, when it comes to, so if I refresh it now, so it's going to look quite a bit better. So we've got still this temporary one that's floating, so I mean that doesn't really look that great. So we can take care of that as well, and we can get rid of some of that styling that we had added in there with that position styling and so on. So I'm going to just rename it to temp A, and that will give us our temporary section that we were using over here back. So now when I'm looking at this, we might want to actually align these to center them. So we have the option here to center text. So we've got a class here called CLS. So I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to make some text align. So center that text. So it's centered out there. And if we want to apply something particular to each one of those paragraphs, so we notice that we've broken it down, or we've got them as hyperlinks there. So as each one of those anchors, we might want to do display block to display across the whole available section. We might also want to add in a border, so one pick solid, and we'll make it a really light border. So now we can distinguish between the two different hyperlinks that we had there. And what I really want to do here is try out border radius. So I also want to add in a background color so that we can see those standing out as well. And maybe I want to do font size. So font size, and we'll do 2 EMs so it really stands out there. So yeah, so I wanted to add in another one that I really like to use, and that's border radius. So this one is a new one with CSS3, and what it does is it allows us to set a radius for the border, and we can see that the larger the value is, that we get these rounded effects to it. So that's a really neat thing to be able to add in, because this gives us the rounding of it. I can also add in some padding there, so padding of, maybe just do 5 pixels padding, and now I can actually get rid of those line breaks. So I can get rid of some of that formatting that I had within my CSS. Maybe also margin top 5 pixels, so that we can distinguish between each one of these different hyperlinks here on our website. And actually what's happened now is we've got the border radius, because I believe we've got the CLS applied there as well. So we might want to get rid of that, unless you like that effect where we've got those rounded buttons there. So now it's back to normal. Our navigation bar is back to normal. We've got these rounded hyperlinks here. And I also wanted to look at pseudo elements within this lesson as well. And so what pseudo elements, we use them within CSS, and they're very useful ways of identifying all of the different elements. So let's say, for instance, here we've got a number of paragraphs, and we want to be able to distinguish between all of the different paragraphs, or we want to distinguish between the different articles here. So I've got 2 different articles, I've got a bunch of sections as well. So maybe I want to split off my sections, or split off my articles, or just split off my paragraphs. So first of all, let's just try to split off the paragraphs first, and I'll show you how that's going to work out. So I can identify, usually the hard part about CSS is really isolating and identifying out the different elements that you want to use. So I want to use this one here, or maybe I want to use, so we'll just use article, and I'm going to do the different paragraphs. So I want to select out the paragraphs, and I want to apply some properties to them. So my background, background color, and I'm going to apply a slight tint to them. So what happens if I actually want to apply it to every other one? And this is where we can use elements such as nth child. So if I want to apply only this to every even element, I can do an nth child and I can set even, and we see that now that it sets it only to the even ones. Vice versa, I can do it to the odd ones, so that I can really distinguish out all of these different paragraphs, and I can apply any of the styling properties now to any one of these paragraphs as well. So this is a great addition within CSS because it helps us identify the different elements and be able to work with them within our HTML structure without actually having to add IDs and classes. So the less IDs and classes that we can add, the better for us, and the more that we can pick out those elements and isolate them out just within our CSS code, the more powerful and the more easier it is to write that CSS code. So we had looked at these pseudo classes before, so even if I want to only pick out the first child, I can do that as well. There's a number of different options there. So I can see that whenever I save that, now this is only going to be applied to the first child within that order. I can also apply it to the last one. So this is going to that last one there, and so on. So a number of different options there. So much like what we're doing here is we've got some other options as well. So I'm going to bring back that nth child and just set it to the odd. And I'm going to show you how to apply pseudo elements. And pseudo elements give us a little bit more flexibility as well. We find within our pseudo classes, so we can be really specific here. So let's say I want to take the paragraph and I want to apply to all of the first letters of each paragraph, and I want to make the font size, so let's make it super big, so 4EM. So this way we can apply some really nice styling, some cool styling to all the first letters and so on. So we've got a lot of different options here. We can apply it to the first line if we want to do that. So first line, we can apply to the first line as well, making it really big. Pseudo classes, pseudo elements really help us isolate out that content that's being presented within our HTML class, or HTML structure. So there's a really good resource over here at Mozilla where they give you a whole listing of all the different pseudo classes that are available, and as you can see there's a whole ton of them. So we're just using that nth child, but we do have a lot of different options. We saw the first child, last child, and so on. In the next lesson, we're going to look at how to make your web page responsive and how to make it resize depending on what the screen size is. So that's coming up in the next lesson.